Good morning. It is time for the Mike Hewitt Show, brought to you by RenegadeRiver.com. And now your host, Mike Hewitt.
Listen now, I got to tell you, Michigan, right as I'm on the verge to go live on the show, I turn around, very innocently I might add, and I look at Brian Thomas, who's the guy that, if you recall, everybody, he's the guy that's supposed to keep us on path, keep the ball from going in the gutters and all that. And I look up on his bald head, and on his bald head, he's got a big blue, red, white, and blue, I got to tell you, flag. I voted. And it was, if I hadn't looked right when I was looking, it'd have been okay, but as he's pointing to me that I'm laughing. So how typical is that? Brian, thanks for the help.
I guess my goal has been met.
I put I voted on my chest. I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Next time I vote, right on my forehead, I'm telling you. So listen, good morning, everybody. Ludwig von Wiedendorsky and Miles Bauer are with us. We got a pretty full show today. I want to go over a handful of things. First off, some Michigan primary results. And I want to talk as much about the results as I do the lack of results. And I'm not sure we're going to save that for the Enigma, because I've got two competing ideas for the Enigma, and I'm really divided. So I am. But listen, it was it's one of those things for the folks that are involved in the primaries or that are actually out wanting change and wanting regular good people to come to office. For us, it's like the Super Bowl, as you've heard me say several weeks now. But for 90% of America, it's just Tuesday. And that just scares the bejeebers out of me when there's so much of our train that's off the tracks as a nation and as a state, and 9 out of 10 people that you pass just don't care. Miles, that just alarms the heck out of me. What does that... You just got used to it? Do you go numb to it? Well, how do you deal with the fact that 90% of America doesn't give a rat's butt?
You know, there is something strange going on out there, because I even saw some results coming back from Kansas where Tea Party-backed people went down in flames because of the establishment. I think it kind of underscores the idea that you were talking about, if people don't get out and vote, the establishment is going to just continue to come back in and take away some of the momentum that was started as part of the primary process.
Listen, there's a lot of folks that absolutely deplore the Tea Party, and in fact, many folks that are within the Tea Party have sought to rename it as Patriots, as a whole bunch of different other names, because the tarnish has been put on that concept as a freedom and liberty movement so harsh that anyone that's remembered to have been a part of it, not be a part of it, seems to be targeted for destruction. And I got to tell you, to me, that isn't what's supposed to be in the arena of ideas. I understand that the opposing side in this drama, they have legitimate ideas. I don't agree with them, but they're legitimate ideas. So my thing isn't to find a way to squelch them. I don't want to silence them and tell them, please don't vote. I want to meet them in the arena of ideas so that the best of our sets of ideas can be what guides our union of states. And that's just not the flip side around. And I'm alarmed by that, but I'm more alarmed truly, aside from that push and pull between conservatives and establishments within the GOP, and frankly the same but opposite rub that's going on within the Democratic Party. What concerns me more than that 10% of the total electorate is the 90% that just doesn't care. I don't know how you cannot care when your check every week or every other week, however you're paid, when your check is molested and then your money is given to Iran. I don't know how you cannot have your hair on fire and say, I'm going to vote for a whole different program because this one ain't working.
I think it's education.
Mike,
yes, sir?
But you know what, though? Think about the Bernie supporters
when the
WikiLeaks emails came out.
Yep.
And those people, by the very system they were participating in, they were betrayed before they even voted.
True.
So you have to understand that the Bernie Bernie supporters might just check out for legitimate reasons.
I got to tell you, I get the idea of saying I'm not going to support. In fact, by the way, on both sides, I get the idea of an individual saying I'm not going to support Trump or I'm not going to support Hillary because these folks, whatever their rationale was, I think the rationale has to be different on either side. But yet, I get pushback. At the same time, even if I said I'm not going to support either one of these two people, I wouldn't just exit the political process. I wouldn't surrender my right, not even a right, by the way. It's a civic duty to be informed and take a vote. I honestly, passionately believe
your own
it's a
party
civic...
is working against you, like the DNC did. I mean, they basically rigged it. I mean, hating to use Trump's word, but
listen, I get it, but there's two different paths to take. Okay, there can be some people that within the Republican Party, in fact, you said it, talking about the pushback against Tea Party from the establishment. And then there are Tea Partiers like me that said, I'm not going to take my ball and bat and go home. I'm going to get involved in the party and have an active hand in trying to steer it. Now, I've been a pragmatist for the last year and a half of my term as the 2nd District Chair, but that doesn't change my core values. I'm still doing everything I can do to steer the party back to constitutional limited government foundational principles. That's what I'm doing. I didn't surrender and walk away and say, jeepers, I'm going to stay at home. I can't. Miles, I don't get that kind of thinking. I just don't.
But I mean, Mike, look, you have former presidents who checked out. George Bush.
Shame on him. Shame on him. Shame on him.
John McCain.
Shame on him. Shame on every single one of them.
That is the example that they are providing to people.
But every one of those people that you just listed and everyone that didn't vote in yesterday's and Michigan's primary, every single one of them could have had an influence on what's happening. And the fact that they didn't, it caused some fascinating results, and maybe some of the results are better.
They did have an influence.
We can debate that, but the ones that didn't show up had an influence.
Yeah.
I think they had a negative influence by empowering the very people that they don't like.
Yeah, so they had an influence.
Listen, G.W. Bush, I actually liked the guy on a personal basis.
I liked Bush.
Listen, I didn't agree with some of his, but this is absolutely, here's your word, the position that the Bush family is taking is bombastic. It is absolutely what they call Trump. It is bombastic and unhinged. I believe that. Yeah. Kasich, the exact same thing that he's calling Trump is what he is actually doing. And they remind me of what I say of the progressives. If you ever want to know what a progressive is doing, write down the notes of what he's accusing you of, because that's what he's doing.
You know, it's fun. Yeah. In hockey, we tell our players, don't retaliate. If you get a slash, don't turn around and slash the guy back. If you get a punch to the head, don't turn around and punch the guy right back. Get him later. Get his number and get him later. Because the person who gets the penalty is the retaliation. What you've seen in this cycle and what you always see as long as Republicans want doing it is retaliating. Trump is not an attacker. He responds to attacks. And nobody sees the first attack. They only see the second attack. So Bush and Kasich, nobody's seeing what they're doing. They're looking at a counterattack by what Trump's doing and saying, well, he's bombastic. Well, no, they started it. They caused it. He's responding to their attitude and behavior.
Guys, I got to take a pause for a second and leave the bombastic politics for just 60 seconds. I got to do it. Ratchet myself down. Take a blood pressure pill.
He's turning red.
No, I'm not. Well, I might be because I'm looking at a bag in front of me that's called Sweet Connection, and it's filled with good stuff, folks. It's got, what have I got? Caramel. What is this? Caramel.
That's caramel corn.
And then I've got 2 monster-size caramel apples, one with goodies stuck all over it, one that's just caramel. That's going to be mine because I'm a plain kind of guy. This came from where, Ludwig?
Sweet Connection.
What is Sweet Connection?
My mom and my wife and my sister.
So this is kind of, it's not your company. This is,
no.
You are out. O-U-T, out.
Yes.
G-I-T, get, as an old buddy of mine used to say.
Get, but help us when we need you.
There you are. That's okay. Listen, they deserve it. So this is your family's company.
Yeah.
Where's it at?
It's off of Byron Center Road, across from Metro Health in Grand Rapids.
Sweet-connections.com.
Yep. That's the website. It's grand openings today. They open up at 10 o'clock.
5751 Byron Center Avenue, Suite 1. Is that 1?
T.
Yep. I'm getting old.
Right across from Metro Health off of Byron Center.
Are they a candy store? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, caramel corn, ice cream. We sell Sherman's ice cream.
Okay.
Caramel apples, Every type of popcorn you can think of: cheddar, caramel corn, pizza popcorn.
So at the end of the month, when my sister gets here from Nevada,
Yeah.
okay, we're going to have our annual Bloody Mary together.
Yep.
That's what we do. In fact, there's a picture on Facebook.
Saw that this morning.
It was because I get the memory every day. You know how Facebook does the memory?
Yeah.
So there's a memory of me and Brenda Brown cheering each other. So she's going to come into the studio at the end of the month. Last year she did that, but she didn't say a word. She's listening right now, so I'm telling you, I'm putting a microphone in front of you. I'm just telling you. So
Party.
there you go, Miles. So we're going to have that. But on a bigger note, bigger than all of this, because I'm getting old, I'm telling you, bigger than all this, my second youngest daughter is turning 30 today.
Wow.
Ouch.
When you say second youngest is 30, I'm telling you, all the way I'm going, yeah, there's still 2 hairs up there. I see them in the rearview mirror. I'm telling you. It is true. Time passes, as always, quickly. That's what I'm telling you. Anyhow, I had to get all those things out. Marie, happy birthday. I love you. And Brenda Brown, you're listening. I can't wait to see you. And Julie Brown's coming with you, so hugs all around. Folks, do me a favor. Go to Sweet Connections over on Byron Center Avenue and buy some of the stuff and bring it out to Renegade River. That's what I'm saying.
If you go there today, because the grand opening's today, it's 10% off of everything for celebrating the grand opening.
Speaking of Renegade River, are they going to come up with a wholesale plan for other stores?
Yeah, actually, that was something we were talking about.
Because listen, old gun people like me, we like sweet stuff. You can tell by looking at me.
No.
Yeah.
Just so you know, if you walk in Renegade River anytime, there's usually cookies, donuts, or something there.
There's always
with
coffee. You got to have coffee. That's a gun shops and coffee. Just absolutely, that's part of the deal. And there's usually 7 or 8 people standing around arguing over politics. Hard as that is to believe, coming from the place that I'm involved in.
No, that would never happen.
So, Miles, where did we leave off? Tell me. We've only got about 2 minutes left in this segment, but I want to kind of ramp up for the next segment. So it seems lately Trump and Hillary have both had a wee bit of a bumpy ride, don't you know?
Well, I mean, I think that the press is going to intentionally make it a bumpy ride for Trump to provide cover fire for Hillary. Because
they're not even pretending anymore, by the way. The press used to act like they're journalists. They are part of the Democratic National Party now. They're in it hook, line, and sinker, and they're very open about it.
Well, Stephanopoulos is part of her foundation.
Stephanopoulos?
Stephanopoulos. He's from what, ABC?
I thought he was from Sesame Street. Are you sure?
No, that's Snuffleupagus.
Snuffleupagus, he was part of the 92 campaign when Bill was running.
Yeah. He still has something to do with their campaign now, and he's a big contributor.
Miles, when you say that, you make me think that you don't think he's unbiased. Just because he's been part of the Clinton machine for 3 decades. I mean, come on.
No, and you know what? The thing is that this is the stuff that Trump's going to have to learn. That I think, because Trump really hasn't been a part of politics,
right?
He's kind of breaking China here a little bit, and
you're a master at understatement.
Yeah,
he is breaking some China. Listen, we're going to go to a break just so we can have this in a full segment. When we come back, I want to talk about the Khan family and the fact that the source of information, if it's Russia rather than the local news media, we don't count anything we hear from anything else unless it's from Snuffleupagus or whatever you call that guy's name from. So anyway, folks, smooth talker that I am, we'll be right back.
You're listening to The Mike Hewitt Show. RenegadeRiver.com is new and used firearms, all priced to sell, plus ammo, reloading supplies, optics, clothing, lasers, and yes, tactical gear. RenegadeRiver.com, family owned right here in Michigan, because you deserve it. And the Mike Hewitt Show is brought to you by RenegadeRiver.com, and we're flying into segment 2 already.
Listen, I'm telling you, if you're just tuning in, we've got Ludwig von Wiedendorsky and Miles Bauer with us this morning, and we're just chewing up some time because when I look across the fruited plain, it scares me to death. We've got some things in front of us that pose some significant threat. But what I want to dial into, if I can, in this segment, probably a little bit tighter than normal, is I'm watching the comments that Trump made as it relates to Khan. Am I saying the name right? Am I saying their name right? The Khan family? Yeah. Listen, I take absolutely nothing from the soldier that defended folks. That truly is an American hero. And I don't say that because it's politically correct to lead into the rest of my comment. I say it just because it's true. Having said that, when I looked at the couple standing there at the DNC convention, the speech he gave was a great speech. I take nothing from that. I didn't necessarily agree with a lot of his verbiage. I defend passionately his right to do it. Having said all of that, let me set that on the counter for a minute. When I looked at her, I can't know what was in Donald Trump's mind. I can't know that. None of us will ever know it. But let me tell you what was in my mind. When I watched her standing there in silence, rigid, I paused for a minute and I thought about all of the Muslim women. I don't know what the percentage is, folks. It's not all of them. I'm not painting with a big brush, but there's more than one, and that's one too many, of Muslim women that come to the United States. I got to believe they're praying. I say that very, very respectfully. I got to believe they're praying for a life of more liberty and freedom. And instead, too many of them find themselves in fathers killing daughters because they don't like what they did, women getting the absolute bejeebers beaten out of them because they did say something.
Sharia law.
I don't know what Donald Trump thought, but I know what Mike Hewitt thought when I watched that circumstance, and I was appalled by it. Now, if that's her choice, if that's her brand of liberty, I'm on her team. I am. I don't have to agree with her politically to defend her right to do that if that's what she wants. But I got to tell you, had I have been talking that day just like I am now, I would have said, what about the women who don't have a voice? What kind of Democratic Party claps like penguins over that, but doesn't pause to wonder if there's women getting the bejeebers beaten out of them for actually saying something? That's what I would have said if I were Donald Trump, and I probably would have taken more of a beating than he's been taking. But listen, I think the beating he's taking is absolute smoke and mirrors, and it's designed to shuffle us along like so many sheep to get us moved beyond the email drama of, I don't know, folks, I don't know if you guys get on the internet, get on Google, and Google for the content of those emails that were released from both the DNC and the Hillary campaign. Talk about racist, bigotry, mean-spirited. We got this group. This group's always very loyal because that's just who they are. They didn't say it nicely. They said it like they were looking down on the ant farm, knowing what they can do to cause people to react in different ways. What a terrible, aghast way of looking at humanity. That's my view. And I think that if we let them slither out of it by pounding Trump for something that I believe he was right on, whether he said it properly or not, we can debate that forever. But don't let the meaning of his words fall down because they're busy trying to get you to move beyond their outrageous comments about Jews and everybody else. Just insulting as can be. Miles, you're a Trump publican. Am I off in the weeds again?
No, I think it demonstrates the hypocrisy of the entire Democrat Party, and it also solidifies something that I think you and I have thought for years. I mean, it demonstrated evidence that the DNC chair was actively going to MSNBC and other networks and talking about how they were going to cover the news. It's stark, concrete reality right there in the emails. It's not just you and I because we happen to be conservatives and, we have this straw man worry about the news. But one other thing, and Mike, tell me if I'm off on the woods. Say one of your daughters went off to war and died. Would you necessarily lower that to an ideological idea at the RNC, or would you not hold that sacred?
Listen, I got to tell you, I've thought about that. I can't. It's my daughter's birthday today. I can't get my head around the idea of folks that have lost their children for any reason, whether it's a car accident or in some faraway land. I genuinely can't. You remember Bob Moore? I used to work for him back in the 80s. He lost a son many years before I met him. Couldn't have the conversation without breaking down many years later. So listen, to your point, it doesn't matter whether my heart would allow me to make it a political statement. I wouldn't be able to talk. There's no possible way I could have stood up there. And maybe that goes to Mrs. Kahn's point, by the way, because that's what she said her reason was, that she couldn't physically make herself talk with the image of her. And listen, I get that. If that was her reason, and this is the life she's chosen, I'm okay with that. I am. And if that's the reason, I would agree with it, because it goes to your point, Miles. I couldn't do that. I talk for a living. I do this I'm paid to go out and give speaking engagements. I do the radio show. I talk for a living. But no way could I stand up there and talk about one of my daughters in a political context. I live in the political bubble. I could not pull one of my lost daughters into that circumstance. On the other hand, I don't have it in me to be out selling visas to people that I know could be a threat to the United States, and that's something he does do.
Right.
So we've got to spell out who this man really is. And I'm not trying to attack the messenger, by the way. That's too cliche. But to not acknowledge the fact that this is not a guy that's a friend to liberty in the Constitution, to not acknowledge that that's not who he is, would be a deceptive thing.
He's been given 55 minutes to talk about this on the media, and the mother of Benghazi, 70 seconds.
They destroy that lady for saying the truth.
Yeah.
And when you Google
55 minutes to 70 seconds.
And when you Google her name, you don't find her off trying to bring in Syrians. You don't find her selling visas to millionaires from around the globe. You don't find her in that business. You find a lady that lost her child and is outraged that a leader of the United States looked her in the eyeballs and bold-faced lied to her while in the same hour was texting her own daughter to say the truth. What an upside-down set of values our media has. Forget the people involved. Listen, I've been in a campaign. Ludwig's been in a campaign. I had dear friends yesterday that lost. By the way, I had dear friends that won yesterday. It's tough. You put everything on the line. And that would be true for Hillary. It would be true for Trump. It's true for all of them. Tom Siver, that was on our show last week. It's true for all of them. Chris Worth. I like Chris Worth. He lost in that same race. Everything in, I get it. But you don't deviate from truth.
Yeah.
You don't say, jeepers, I don't like the truth, so I'm going to either come up with a stinky smog screen or just bold-faced lie. Let's get together on some secret internet group and figure out, we'll test which words sell the story the best. What an evil, rigged system we have, to use a word.
Yeah, but the media is going to want to provide cover. I mean, they are passionate about their beliefs the same as we all are. And if they know Hillary is Hillary, they have to give her cover. And if that means we're going to jump on top of whatever Trump says and maybe mischaracterize it or put it in a different light, then they're thinking they're doing their job. I'm not saying it's right.
The part that surprises me, though, Miles, isn't the media, because you're right. I expect that from them. They've tried throughout yours and my adult life, with our thousands of hours of watching campaigns going back to Jimmy Carter's campaign. We've come to expect that, you and I. We've talked about it endlessly for 40 years. The people that surprise me, though, are the establishment Republicans that say, I can't condone that. Well, yes, you can, because it's the truth. You know, that was an opportunity for them, in my view, to stand up and say she may or may not represent a problem, but there is a problem in America with Muslim women who are not treated equally like citizens. So I mean, they had an opportunity. They had an opportunity. Not only did they ignore it, they purposely stepped over it and stepped on it.
I would put forth the idea the establishment wants Hillary to win so that the establishment Republicans can come back and say, see you, Trumpers, sit down, shut up, and get in line.
Yeah, I think there is a certain portion of them that do that, but I got to tell you, anyone that's read my book, and listen, anyone that's read my book knows I'm not a novelist. No one's ever going to say, Geely, he's the next Clancy. No one's ever going to say that. I'm okay with that.
I did laughing, though.
I'm going to smack you. So I didn't even make fun of your mess this morning. So
I wasn't a mess this morning. I was calm.
I'm telling you, folks, it's just not true. So I learned that from.
Hey, listen. In all honesty, your book was really good.
I'm going to still go.
I'm being serious. 100%.
Brian, I'm going to slap him. I'm telling you.
No smile here. 100% serious. I liked it. I've actually recommended it to my business partner.
Here's what I'm saying, though. These things that we're watching right now, I'm not a soothsayer. I'm not clairvoyant. I'm not saying I'm any of that. But what I did to write that silly novel is I literally did this. I laid out a handful of things that I consider constitutionally guaranteed liberties. I started at the Civil War, and I literally trimmed them out on a graph and said, at our current rate, and based on this trend from the end of the Civil War forward, actually from 1869, from the Supreme Court, people have always heard me quip about that, Supreme Court decision in 1869. I lay it out and I trend it and say, is this going to go on forever? My answer is no, it won't. I arrived scientifically, for me, Miles, I arrived scientifically at the year 2029. I believe it. But when I watch what the media is doing, when I watch establishment leadership in either party and what they're doing, I think, oh man, folks, I don't want to be right. I don't want to be right. But they continue to prove that this cannot last the way it is before sooner or later the 90% that are sitting on their hands right now say, stop it, enough.
Meg Whitman, there's an article right now on Fox News about Meg Whitman, who is the CEO of HP, ex-GOP gubernatorial candidate, going to support Hillary, going to fundraise for Hillary, and donate upwards into the high six figures to her campaign for Hillary.
And you just had one of the Jeb Bush hierarchy campaign guys switch to Hillary.
Yep. So did somebody in Chris Christie's campaign, or former senior aide Maria Kamala.
To switch over.
This is a problem.
Well,
not because of Trump, but because what are they thinking?
Listen, it goes to the platform, folks. The folks that are yelling that this representation doesn't acknowledge the platform that citizens wrote, and they don't. And the result of that is you end up with a bunch of Republicans, and the Democrats say the same thing. You end up with a bunch of Democrats that don't represent the Democratic platform, a bunch of Republicans that don't represent the Republican platform. And the unfortunate part is that when you have such a low voter turnout, the money pushes the votes. That's what we're seeing last night. We saw it in Ottawa County. We saw it up north. We see it in a lot of different places. Establishment money pushes the votes. So if we 90% folks, if we sit down and say we're not going to participate, we have to know that the pushback to that is the Jeb Bushes of the world with a lot of money pushing votes. Right?
Yeah, it's all about money.
It is about money. It's about money and power.
Yeah.
But listen, if you take a person like the list that you just offered, those people that are switching camps, there'll always be people that are switching camps, by the way. Mm-hmm. Always. There always has been, there always will be. So it's important right now to pause for a second and say, this ain't nothing new. That's always been the case.
Well, I don't think she's talking about switching parties, though.
Yes, she is.
Not permanently.
Listen, this is no different than the DNC when they went from absolutely not a flag in the whole building. The next day they had 4 flags that they borrowed from the local city hall, and then the third day it looked like a flag store.
Yeah.
And you go, do you folks think we're stupid? And the answer based on the emails is, yeah, we do.
Yeah.
But the establishment on the opposite side appears to think the same thing, that we are stupid.
Yeah.
Or that the 90% are, I don't know which side is the 10% that are involved are, or the 90% that aren't, whomever, they know for a fact that they can move votes. It's no different than the race that you and I often talk about, where the overwhelming constituency disagreed with the legislator and then overwhelmingly reelected that legislator. You go, I think there's a disconnect. I'm not sure, but I think so. I mean, it's to the point where it's sad because you've got, and then you get hung up in the populist rant, which I absolutely go ape crap every time I hear it. All politicians are rotten. You mean the guys and the girls that spent the $40,000 to get into the office and they probably lost 2 or 3 times before it happened? Those are the rotten people you're talking about? Or is it just the big money people like the Bush family that are rotten? Let's get real targeted on who's rotten. Because what we're doing is we're doing the classic shoot everyone in the foot thing. On Facebook, I watched as an example. When I was a cruiser, and I endorsed Cruz. I campaigned for Cruz.
Did you say that past tense?
I did.
You are no longer a cruiser?
No. Listen, listen, Miles, I get it. I'm a big boy. Cruz lost. The primary's over. Trump won. Trump is the only path that leads to any possibility through a victory in November. I don't have to be a rocket scientist, but I'm glad you asked that way because it's important. When I sit down with you, who I've known for 40 years, I don't think that we necessarily agree on everything. We agree on most things, but I'm not going to unfriend you because we don't agree on the Cubs.
Right.
I mean, the concept of it is what kills us as a voting bloc entirely. So where I was going with this is that when I finally came out and I said, okay, I'm going to endorse Cruz. Okay. Then I had a handful of people. They were Trump Republicans and other people that supported other candidates. It was like 17 little cults. Well, that doesn't win back freedom to have 17 little cults. So when I said I'm a Cruiser, I got a blob of people that unfriended me on Facebook. I'm okay with that. Then Cruz loses. So I said, okay, I'm on the Trump train. And a blob of Cruiser people and other candidate supporters unfriended me. I'm going, how in the heck, the folks at the top of the pile with the money that are leading us around like they got a lot of your candy over here to children, they must sit and giggle at us. I'm going to unfriend you if you say that again. Well, you know, that's not winning or losing in the arena of ideas. It's not even joining in the arena of ideas. And I believe that passionately. It's not even meeting anybody in the arena of ideas. There's no such thing as two brains with 100 billion molecules apiece that agree on everything. It's not possible. So we need to grow up. Do I agree with Trump on everything? No, I don't. But I will tell you this. The more I've actually listened, the more I've come to agree with him. The more I've said, oh, wait a minute, that's not what he was saying. That's what the echo chamber was telling me he was saying. Then Miles, I attribute that to you because you made me listen to do the show. So thank you.
You talk about the emails and them getting stolen, and the best part is the spin isn't about what's in them. It's that they even got stolen. I remember reading an article a few years back about a drug dealer who called the police because the guy stole his drugs and didn't pay him.
Yeah.
And so he was robbed. So he called the police and said, hey, I sold marijuana to this guy. He took off running, didn't pay me. I want to file a complaint.
Right.
And they said, what'd you do? Oh, well, the guy robbed me. Well, what were you selling him? Drugs?
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't matter I was selling drugs. He robbed me. That's the crime here. That's what you see with this email thing. It's the same thing.
Kind of the same thing. But listen, one of the talking heads from the DNC was being interviewed by somebody on Fox News, and obviously I can't get real specific on the details. But the guy, the DNC, what are you looking at? The DNC guy, the DNC guy kept avoiding any questions about the details. They didn't want to answer them. And finally, the guy doing the interview said, "Are you not worried about the content?" And the guy said, "No, this stuff was stolen by Russia. That's a threat against the United States." And he goes on about how the Russia's trying to impact our. They literally are using that to say we don't have to talk about. And folks, if the truth doesn't matter, what kind of union of states do we have if the truth no longer matters? That's not a Republican or a Democrat statement to make. The truth has got to matter, or we don't have nothing.
No, it would sound like North Korea then.
No, it's exactly like North Korea. If the truth doesn't matter, we are North Korea.
Yes.
That's exactly just a banana republic. Mm-hmm. The truth doesn't matter. We've got almost half of America that want to elect somebody that everybody knows is a criminal. And the logic is not to defend her because she's a criminal. They don't say, well, ABCD. They don't say that. They immediately attack Trump. So they discount the fact that she's an absolute, obvious criminal by saying he's bombastic and doesn't care about what he says. So I've got somebody that keeps blurting out the truth, and that overshadows the fact that we support a criminal. And I go, really? Does that really add up to anybody's thinking? Not mine.
No, but it's the same party that had criminals standing on the stage. Illegal immigrants came and stood on the stage and said, I'm illegally here. And they walked off. They were cheered. They were clapped for. And like, wait a second, that's a criminal on the stage.
Yeah.
Like, what? It didn't make sense to me until you just said it. They're going to vote for a criminal, so I guess it's okay.
But listen, I was going to the grand poobah of the whole thing was a criminal.
Yeah.
And someone wrote this thing on Facebook back to me. There was some big drama early this morning. It's like 6:30 this morning, and they're going on and on and on about Hillary. And I offered a joke. I said, Hillary, isn't she in jail? And of course, the response was from a Hillary supporter, some big, gigantic, monstrous paragraph about everything that she thinks about Trump. Okay, I don't care if you like Trump. and you can list as bankruptcies. Whatever. But don't use that as a defense for the fact that she's a criminal. Yep. This lady is a habitual liar. Miles, when did you and I discover she was a liar?
Let's see, late 1970s?
I mean, 78, 79, going, Spock, do you think she's a liar? Yeah, she's a liar. This is not something revolutionary that we're just discovering right now. And plus or minus half of the folks, we don't care. We don't care about the emails. We don't care about national security. Here's the big one. We don't care about the Clinton Foundation, where the money come from or where it goes. We don't care because she's female. And on that note, I've been waffling still on the Enigma report. I really have. But I am so insulted by gender and race politics. I'm torn. I got 3 topics. I don't know which one to grab. I'm really, really insulted by that. The left says there aren't any women legislators in the state of Michigan. Well, yeah, there are. Absolutely are. And how many times have you had a consultant tell you, Ludwig, that if it's a man and a woman running, if everything else is equal, she's going to win by 5%?
Yep. Heard that multiple
Now, listen,
times.
I'm not bashing women. I'm the other way. I don't care. I want the most qualified human being of any race or gender. Not a Q, by the way. I'm sorry. I don't want someone confused. I'm sorry, it's how I feel.
They can't make up their mind on that. How are they going to vote on something?
I don't care if it's a woman. I don't care if I don't care about race. I want the most qualified person who's committed to the United States and the state of Michigan Constitution. That's who Mikey's going to support. It just is.
We have no women legislators?
Well, no, it's the way they don't have enough because they're looking for a polarity. The problem with it is they don't run. If they ran, they'd win.
Half our senators are
Listen,
women.
We've got to go to the Enigma report, or we'll do a whole Enigma report before we get to one. Folks, we'll be right back.
This is the Mike Hewitt Show, a news.
RenegadeRiver.com is new and used firearms, all priced to sell, plus ammo, reloading supplies, optics, clothing, lasers, and yes, tactical gear. RenegadeRiver.com, family owned right here in Michigan, because you deserve it. And this is the Mike Hewitt Show, brought to you by RenegadeRiver.com.
3, 2, 1, 0.
You have arrived to your final destination on your journey through reality. Welcome to the Enigma Report. Decisions.
Brian, it's a toughie because there's so many enigmas in our world nowadays. I'm telling you. Listen, folks, off air in between the segments, Miles and I got talking. Next week he's going to be taking his son Minihim to New York City and Boston. Of course, when I heard New York City coming from a Trump-publican, I couldn't help but pick up on it a little bit, and so I got called a cruiser again. But now you got to tell me live on the air, Miles. You've been to New York City a few times, and so have I. Have you noticed a difference between the cultures, say, in New York City and Iowa? I'm just asking.
Well, we did learn one thing, right? Don't throw New York City underneath the bus until the primaries are done.
Yeah, if I were really trying to win, I might have just held off that entirely till after November. I'm just saying. But all jokes aside, one of the things I wanted to talk about, and it really wasn't part of the enigma, but I got reminded of it because I think it's crucial to folks that are trying to say I don't like the way he talks. And I mean this sincerely, by the way. If you go to New York City, there's a lot of nice people there, and I know that's contrary to what people generally think about the big cities. They really are. They'll give you the shirt off of their back, but they speak differently than they do in the flyover country. They just do. It's a fact. I've done business in Boston. I've done business in New York City over the years a lot when I used to work with National Coach Engineering in a different life. And I learned that they were great people. I could do a lot of handshake deals, to use a term I like to use a lot. And they paid, and they were good people, but they were very abrasive in their approach when compared to how we talk in West Michigan or Iowa. They just do. And so I've had to pull myself back from when I'm listening to Donald Trump talk. I've had to recognize and actually listen to his words and say, what's he trying to communicate? because they communicate so different. They just do. It's not I'm not making maybe a little. I'm not trying to make a cruiser statement. I'm just acknowledging a fact. They talk differently. They do in New Jersey also. When I spent my 7 or 8 months in Vegas working out there, one of the things I noticed were the 3 largest groups of people in Vegas. I'll just talk about 2 of them. One of them was from New York, not New York/New Jersey. The other was from California. The New Jersey people, they were probably good people, but they were abrasive talkers. They just are. It's a very different culture. And it causes me to pause, by the way, and ask, because frankly, they're probably at least ethnically and culturally closest to our founders. And so I pause and say, wonder if our founders talked with that accent and with that abruptness, because the real word isn't rude. The real word is they talk with a quick abruptness. Now, Miles, you've been there a lot. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, no, I would completely agree.
Yeah, so that's not a slamming against them. They are different than Iowa, but I think the difference really is in the dialogue. And by the way, I don't think it's any different than how they used to talk down south versus how they talk up here. There was a significant difference in how somebody would talk, say, in Mountain Home, Arkansas in 1978. Their accent, the words that they use, what they call soda pop, everything, there was just some nuance differences, some big differences. And one of the things I wanted to make a touch on, so we'll make it the Enigma report, is that you were back in, I think it was April, and you opined that there was a shift in the party structure that was World War II party structure. Now it's evolving into something different. And it's my position, first off, that you were correct. I think the party structure from World War II forward was built on the dynamics of population shifts that took place in pursuit of jobs at the end of World War II. So a lot of black folks from down south moved to north, and a lot of folks moved from generally speaking, the east and center west. That in itself caused demographic changes in voting, especially as we got into the civil rights era with LBJ and some of his captivating policies, for a lack of better words and time. And so now we're at a point again that I believe is caused by demographic shifts. Because if you go to Mountain Home now, I guarantee you they will not sound like they sounded to you and I when we were there in 1978 together. That's just a different people. A lot of retirement people from Detroit and from Chicago. Now, that has an effect on the outcome of what we're watching right now. We just watched a race in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I think it's Traverse, it's a congressional 1st District. Jack Bergman, I think is how you say his name, as a retired general, dominated that race against several professional politicians. Now he's the Republican nominee in that congressional race up there. An outsider, straightforward guy, actually not even from that area, but I think he represents, the same as Trump does, the same as maybe Bernie does on the other side, the result of the shift in dynamic for party structure that you identified, Miles.
Yeah, think I don't know what the numbers are in Michigan, but when you think over 1 million voters in Pennsylvania have flipped from the Democrat Party to the Republican Party, and I think something like 700,000 or 800,000 people from Ohio have flipped from the Democrat to the Republican Party. I think not only to your earlier point about people just shutting out and not wanting to listen to other views, but I think we're also having a party shift.
Absolutely.
The population is just there are a lot of things that are coming together in one single election cycle.
I think there's some truth to that there, but listen, I'm still in belief, Miles, that part of this was the same old, and that the 90% that don't vote in primaries, number one reason is that they make me vote for a party because they've not been educated as to what a primary is. It's a nominating process. It's not even an election. They'll call it an election. That goes to education in my belief. And the turnout in this regard is roughly the same as the turnout was when I primaried an incumbent in 2004. Not that much has changed for those folks that stand down. Now, their reasons may shift. Their excuses may shift. But I think the real dynamic is who's voting in what state. So those states that the Democrats used to depend on, I don't think they better depend on them. And by the way, I think there's some erosion in Republican on the Republican state line also. So when we get to the end of this November and look at the map, win, lose, or draw, we're going to see people, we're going to see states in different positions than they've been in the last 40 or 50 years. And Brian is starting to hold up the signs and the music is playing. So folks, please follow us on Twitter at Talk Mike Hewitt and on Facebook at /The Mike Hewitt Show, and of course the MikeHewittShow.com. I very much appreciate everyone listening. Thanks for joining us on Facebook Streamer. I've enjoyed it. Ludwig, I appreciate you doing that. Yeah. I'll see you folks at Sweet Connection. Have a great day. See you next Wednesday.